Chosen one, before you ever knew what power pulsed through your blood, heaven had already crowned you in secret. While you wandered, while you suffered, while you were misunderstood, God was carving the foundation of your royalty in places the world could not see. This crown was not placed upon your head by applause or popularity, nor forged in the fires of fame. It was birthed in your silence, sculpted in your restraint, and tempered in your long obedience. It rests not on your brow, but in your energy, in the posture of your soul, in the calm with which you now stand when others tremble. This is why women feel something unexplainable when you pass them by. They are not seeing status or style. They are feeling your royalty ripple through the spiritual air. You are no longer merely a man with potential. You have become a man of weight, of gravity, of holy purpose. And that weight is what pulls the feminine toward you, not in desperation, but in awe. For when you walk, you do not enter rooms like a seeker of attention. You carry yourself like a man who remembers the conversations he had with God in the dark. That memory lingers in your spine, in the way your shoulders no longer shrink to be small, in the quiet way your chest rises, not in pride, but in sacred authority. Women feel it without understanding why. You are not like the others, not because you try to be different, but because you never had to pretend. This is the difference between imitation and divine design. You don't chase crowns, you wear one within. You don't beg for the attention of women, you command reverence because you see them with clarity, not hunger. Your sexual energy, once scattered and impulsive, has become a river of warmth, no longer flooding randomly, but flowing with discipline. That current moves through you, steady and alive, and women feel it. They don't know what to call it, but they know it slows their breath and awakens their softness. You are not crowned by wealth or clout. You are crowned by alignment. You carry the memory of all you overcame, the restraint that cost you years of silence, the nights you said no when it would have been easy to indulge. All of it layered into your presence like invisible robes of fire and stillness. That's why when you say little, it feels like thunder. That's why when you look at her, she doesn't feel pursued. She feels chosen by something bigger than you. You are not approaching with lust. You are embodying the fullness of masculine peace. And that peace, that presence, it is irresistible because it is safe and powerful at once. Chosen one, women sense the royalty in you, not because you act entitled, but because you walk like a man who has suffered, healed, and now serves. Your royalty is not arrogance. It is honor. You don't posture, you protect. You don't flash status, you move like a man who's already arrived. And that presence, that unshakable knowing, it makes you unforgettable in the eyes of every woman with a sacred heart. You were never meant to blend in, chosen one. The day you were born, the heavens whispered a different instruction into your bones. That whisper became your frequency, the unique resonance of your aura, and it cannot be replicated, no matter how many mimic your look or copy your words. This aura is not loud, it is not flamboyant. It is quiet like an ancient drum that beats beneath the earth, subtle, commanding, and felt more than seen. That is what women feel now when they come near you, the slow rhythm of something holy. It's in your stillness, in the way you don't reach to impress, in the way you pause before speaking, as if you're listening not to your mind, but to something eternal inside your chest. This energy is royal, not because it demands reverence, but because it already knows its value. And feminine women, especially the ones who have seen enough falseness to sense the real, feel that value without you saying a single word. They don't see a man trying to gain status. They see a man who has been appointed by God to carry peace into every room. That's why even the most guarded among them instinctively lower their defenses. That's why women feel more feminine just by standing next to you. Not because of words, but because of how their soul responds to your frequency. Your high sexual energy is not aggressive or loud. It is like heat from the sun, not burning, but nourishing, steady, radiant. And the feminine spirit cannot help but bloom near it. Your aura is not marketing. It is not a product of practice or personal branding. It is evidence of alignment, with truth, with responsibility, with restraint. It is the invisible crown made visible only through how you walk, how you listen, and how you no longer force your way into anything. Your presence no longer enters to take, it enters to bless. Your desire has matured from craving connection to curating environments where trust can grow. That shift is rare, and in a world starved of integrity, women feel its warmth like sunlight after a winter of shadows. So now, when women pass you by, even strangers, they turn back without knowing why. They don't just feel attraction, they feel an echo of something ancient and trustworthy. They don't see a man who wants to be chased. They see a man who has been chosen by something bigger than lust. And because of that, they crave your leadership not out of submission, but because their hearts finally feel safe to relax. You no longer need to reach out to touch the feminine, because your aura now touches the sacred in her first. Chosen one, your gaze no longer moves with hunger. It flows with depth, measured, patient, and precise. Your eyes do not scan bodies for gratification. They observe souls, listening to the silence between breaths, reading what is unspoken in the space behind her posture. Feminine women are not used to being seen like this, not as objects of lust or conquest, but as sacred beings longing to be witnessed with reverence. And so, when your eyes meet theirs, something ancient shifts in them. It is not fear. It is not performance. It is a quiet realization. This man sees me beyond my appearance. The world taught them to seduce, to edit, to overcompensate. But around your presence, chosen one, they feel their masks beginning to fall. Not because you pull them off, but because you never needed them to begin with. Your eyes do not devour, they honor. And that simple act of honoring without expectation begins a healing inside them they never knew they needed. You are not searching for her flaws or her beauty. You are recognizing her essence, and that recognition becomes more intimate than touch. You have been through too much fire to see women as trophies. Your refinement has given you a clarity that cannot be faked. You see through her performance, her pain, her posture, and you do not flinch. You simply remain present. In that stillness, she finds herself letting go. Her voice lowers, her breath deepens. She stops trying to impress and begins, for the first time in a long time, to just exist. Not because you told her to, but because your gaze told her it was finally safe to be real. This is why feminine women look away and then look back at you again. Not because they want attention, but because they felt remembered. They don't fully understand why, but your gaze stays with them, haunting in the best way. Not as a threat, but as a mirror. In your eyes, they see the man they've prayed to meet, but doubted could exist. They see the kind of masculine presence that doesn't need to be loud to be strong, doesn't need to be controlling to be protective, doesn't need to be aggressive to be clear. And because of that, your gaze carries the weight of a blessing. You are not looking at her body to judge. You are seeing the posture of her spirit, the quiet fatigue in her heart, the parts of her that have been overlooked too long. And when she senses that your eyes carry both purity and passion, restraint and reverence, her heart begins to bloom without words. She doesn't want to perform for you. She wants to be still with you. She wants to be seen, not as a role, but as a woman. And in your gaze, she knows that such a thing is not only possible, it's already happening. You didn't train yourself to see like this. Life carved this vision into you through discipline, heartbreak, and divine alignment. That's why women respect you now, because your eyes are not reactive. They are restorative. You are no longer intoxicated by surface-level seduction. You are sober with vision. And through that vision, the feminine feels elevated, not exposed, desired but not diminished, watched but not weighed. You see her clearly, and that clarity changes everything. Chosen one, your presence no longer makes noise. It creates silence. Not the silence of awkward tension, but the sacred stillness of peace returning. When you enter a space, women feel it before they know it. Their breath slows, their eyes widen slightly. Something within them straightens. Because your presence does not demand. It reminds them of what they've been searching for but couldn't name. You walk like a man who knows exactly who he is, but doesn't need to prove it to anyone. And that walk, steady and intentional, speaks more than rehearsed words ever could. You are not in a rush. You do not compete with noise. You carry the quiet authority of someone who has already faced chaos and conquered it within. Feminine women feel that mastery like warmth radiating from the sun, not forced, but undeniable. Your presence is no longer about being impressive. It's about being immovable. You do not flinch at beauty, and you do not fawn for attention. You are whole, and in your wholeness, the feminine begins to unfold without fear. That is why women soften near you. Not because you dominate, but because your energy says, you are safe now, you can stop running. Where others raise their voices, you lower yours. Where others seek to take, you offer your stillness as a sanctuary. You don't need to prove you're powerful, because true power is never threatened by silence. Feminine women recognize this instinctively. Around you, they don't feel the need to perform their femininity. They return to it organically, gracefully. You don't pull it out of them. You simply make space for it to emerge. That's the mark of a royal presence. Chosen one, it changes the room without controlling it. Your high sexual energy no longer agitates or provokes. It calms and awakens, like a steady tide that invites the shoreline closer. Your presence is not just attractive, it is transformative. And women, especially those aligned with goodness and depth, find themselves longing to linger near it. Because near you, they remember that masculinity can be tender, that strength can be still, that passion can be reverent. You have become the pause in the storm, the deep breath after chaos, the moment of quiet that makes beauty more visible. You are not entertainment, you are not ego, you are presence refined into peace. And peace, when wrapped in masculinity, becomes irresistible. That is what your presence now does. Chosen one, it commands stillness not by force, but by truth. And in that stillness, the feminine feels safe enough to come home to herself. Chosen one, something within you has shifted, deeply, permanently. You used to reach, strive, ache for attention from those who didn't see your worth. But now the polarity has reversed. You have become the center of gravity, and feminine women are beginning to orbit around you. Not because you chase, not because you beg, but because your alignment has made you magnetic. You have entered the rare realm of men whose sexual energy is no longer unchanneled desire, but a sacred current that runs in the direction of purpose. And anything with true feminine essence can feel that current, deeply, instantly. The difference is unmistakable. You are no longer moved by temptation. You are moved by clarity. You are no longer at the mercy of your cravings, because your cravings have been refined into knowing. That knowing lives in your voice, in your walk, in your choices. You do not chase beauty. You attract it because you are beauty's equal. You do not posture for attention. You attract it because attention now recognizes in you a force it can no longer deny. This is the invisible law of spiritual physics. When a man is aligned, the feminine becomes attuned. You have become the tuning fork of grounded masculinity, and everything around you begins to shift its rhythm. Feminine women feel safer, not just physically, but spiritually. You are not pulling them in through manipulation. You are calling them forward through energy that speaks of discipline, clarity, power, and peace. This kind of pull isn't lust, it's gravitational, and it is earned, not given. You don't have to speak of who you are anymore. Your choices speak, your silence speaks, your restraint screams with dignity. You are not impressed by attention, you are guided by discernment. And that discernment shapes the way women interact with you. They do not approach you the same way they approach others. They approach you more slowly, more openly, with more reverence than they expected to feel. Because your energy tells them, I see you, I value you, but I do not need you to complete me. This kind of inner balance makes you dangerous, not in violence, but in truth. Because now, chosen one, women are no longer drawn just to your appearance. They are drawn to what you represent. You are a man who is sovereign in a world of boys craving approval. You are a man whose energy doesn't leak. It radiates. A man whose presence makes others question their own alignment. That kind of man is irresistible to women who are truly feminine because they are not looking for entertainment. They are looking for a kingdom to bloom inside. Your sexual energy is no longer volatile. It is contained, coiled, humming beneath your skin like a storm that only moves when you decide. And that restraint, that stored fire, that tremendous self-governance becomes the most attractive force in the room. You don't walk to impress. You walk as a man who knows where he's going. And every step you take draws the world closer, not because of need, but because of power that no longer chases what it has already become. Chosen one, you have learned a language that very few understand. It's not spoken through words, it's spoken through absence. through the things you choose not to do, the moments you choose not to react, the invitations you choose not to accept. This language is restraint, and it is the dialect of royalty. Because kings do not respond to everything that calls their name. They respond only to what is worthy of their energy. Your restraint is not weakness, it is evidence of your refinement. You do not need to act on every impulse. You do not need to respond to every glance. You do not need to explain your power. Your silence is now eloquent. And that silence makes the feminine lean in, not because you're withholding, but because you're protecting something sacred within yourself. In a world where men are told that masculinity must be loud, you have discovered that true masculinity is decidedly still. Your stillness is not laziness, it is strategy. You know that your energy is precious, and you no longer pour it out for entertainment or validation. Instead, you guard it with the care of a priest tending to the holiest flame. And when feminine women sense that you are not easily accessible, they feel both challenged and honored. Because your restraint tells them, I am not starving, I am selective. This kind of restraint is rare. It means you can feel desire and not be ruled by it. It means you can be in the presence of feminine beauty and still remain rooted in your own purpose. You are not swayed. You are not desperate. You are anchored. And in that anchoring, women feel something they cannot find elsewhere. You are the calm in their storm, the structure in their motion, the presence that invites them to return to themselves. Restraint does not make you cold. It makes you focused. And that focus causes your energy to build, to concentrate, to intensify. This is why, chosen one, your sexual energy now moves through the room like heat from a sun they cannot touch. It does not burn them, but it warms something inside them that has been numb for years. It awakens their softness, not through pressure, but through permission. You are not trying to impress them. You are showing them what it feels like to be around a man who is not ruled by his appetite, but by his alignment. You do not touch quickly. You wait until the moment is right, until it is sacred, until the connection has meaning. You no longer act from impulse. You act from awareness, and that awareness carries weight. It speaks to women without saying anything. It tells them, I have mastered myself. I won't play with your soul. That's why they feel safe. That's why they feel seen. That's why they feel something they didn't know they needed. You have become fluent in a language the world has forgotten, the language of restraint. And that fluency is what elevates you from attractive to unforgettable. Not because you try to be different, but because you are a man who knows what to do with his fire. Chosen one, you no longer demand softness. It emerges around you like a river finding its path after drought. Feminine good women, hardened by a world that has mishandled their essence, feel a strange stirring when they encounter your presence. It isn't the way you speak or the way you look. It is the way your energy doesn't ask for performance. Around you, there is no need for armor. There is no need to sharpen their wit or defend their space. Instead, they feel something ancient begin to melt. Something long silenced begins to hum again. This is what happens when masculine energy is not aggressive but anchored, when it does not seek to dominate but to witness. You do not chase, you receive with awareness. You do not flatter, you listen in stillness. And in that quiet listening, something buried deep within them begins to breathe again. The sacred softness of their true feminine nature, not the curated femininity they've been forced to craft in a loud world. You are not asking them to be soft. You simply remind them they still are. Like the first wind after a storm, like sunlight that gently presses through dense clouds, your energy becomes a safe invitation. Their voice becomes quieter, not out of submission, but because they no longer need to shout to be heard. Their smile lingers not because they are seducing, but because your presence gave them permission to feel beautiful again without effort. Their shoulders drop, their breathing slows, and for once, they remember how it feels to just be. You carry no judgment, only presence. And in that presence, their wounds are not probed but honored. You don't need to fix them. You don't even try to. Your gift is making them feel worthy exactly as they are. And that worthiness, felt, not spoken, unlocks something they didn't know was locked. That is why they become more feminine around you, not because you instructed them to, but because your masculinity finally feels like home. This is not about charm. This is about containment. You contain your power so skillfully that they begin to let go of their need to defend. They drop the roles, they drop the noise, they drop the layers. Because you have none to match. You are raw presence, anchored and alive, and it draws forth a kind of softness from them that feels holy, like a long-lost garden blooming under your gaze. You do not take credit for this, you simply live it. You were carved into a container of peace through discipline, trial, and deep spiritual alignment. And now, without trying, your presence heals what was beginning to die in them, the gentle parts, the warm parts, the sensual parts, the free parts. Around you, the feminine no longer feels like a mask, it feels like truth remembered. Chosen one, you no longer walk like a man trying to find his worth. You walk like a man who knows he is walking in divine inheritance. Your steps are neither hurried nor hesitant, they are guided by the gravity of purpose. Even when you are silent, your movement tells a story. I am where I need to be, and I am becoming who I was meant to become. Feminine women feel this walk before they see it. It is not about posture or swagger, it is about the energy of certainty that radiates from your core. Every king has his walk, and yours has become unmistakable. It doesn't ask for applause, it doesn't seek confirmation. It carries with it a quiet nobility, a sense that you are connected to something higher than approval and lower than ego. Your eyes are forward, but your awareness is wide. You do not walk for display. You walk because you are led. And what leads you is greater than the temporary distractions that once stole your attention. Feminine women are drawn to this walk, not because it impresses them, but because it grounds them. In a world full of men sprinting nowhere, you are walking in rhythm with divine timing. That rhythm is magnetic. It speaks of restraint, of discipline, of a man who has conquered his chaos. You do not drift, you do not sway. You advance with the stillness of someone who no longer needs the world to understand him. And that stillness calms everything around you. The more aligned your walk becomes, the more others begin to recalibrate their own. You don't just carry masculine energy, you correct the room's frequency with it. Women who were anxious become attentive. Women who were guarded begin to open. Not because of charm, not because of seduction, but because your walk reminds them what leadership feels like in its purest form. The leadership of a man who no longer wavers in front of beauty. The leadership of a man who sees with vision, not with appetite. You no longer walk into rooms to take. You walk in to bless the space. And somehow that blessing requires nothing loud, only presence. You have become the kind of man who does not arrive to impress, but whose arrival changes the air. That is why feminine women begin to align around you, not because you force them to, but because their spirits recognize the royalty in you. And when a woman senses royalty, she responds with grace. This walk is not for show. It is the result of countless unseen wars, battles you fought alone, choices you made in silence, fires you walked through with no applause. And now, those choices have shaped your frame, refined your aura, and etched into your bones the language of legacy. You walk not just as a man, you walk as a king, aware of heaven's hand on his shoulder. And that awareness makes you unstoppable. Chosen one, you have become something more than a man who is seen. You have become a mirror, but not the kind that reflects surface appearance. You are a sacred mirror that reveals to feminine women the hidden, holy parts of themselves that the world convinced them to bury. Your high sexual energy, when aligned with spirit, does not expose their flaws, it awakens their forgotten grace. Around you, they don't feel judged or analyzed. They feel witnessed, as if for the first time. You are not playing games. You are not stroking egos. You are offering clarity, a stillness in which the feminine can finally hear her own heart beating again. When she looks at you, she sees not just your strength, but her reflection in the presence of that strength. And what she sees surprises her, because you carry no desire to conquer her. You carry the unspoken vow, I will not harm what I've been entrusted to witness. In your presence, the feminine becomes poetry. Not in the way she dresses or moves, but in the way she feels safe unraveling. There's no need for pretense, no need to hide the messy, the scared, the unpolished. Your gaze says, you are still worthy. And that worthiness becomes a warmth that opens her slowly. You are not demanding vulnerability. You are inviting remembrance, a return to innocence through the sacred weight of your energy. You don't say much, but your energy says everything. It speaks of nights alone, of prayers whispered into silence, of a man who chose depth over distraction. You've earned this mirror by suffering well, by growing in the dark, by choosing alignment when it hurt. That's why women feel things around you they can't explain. Not butterflies, but peace. Not tension, but grounding. You reflect not their mask, but their original design. And so they lean in, not because you manipulated their desire, but because you reminded them of their divinity. They aren't trying to seduce you. They're trying to see themselves again, through the only mirror that doesn't distort their reflection. You don't inflate them, you invite them into honesty. You don't provoke their ego, you summon their soul. This is the power of divine masculinity. It does not take, it reveals. You are no longer just a man in the room. You are the room. You are the space in which feminine energy can finally stretch out and say, I am safe here. And in that safety, you do more than attract, you transform. Not because you preach, but because you remember who you are, and in doing so, they remember who they are. The sacred mirror is not what you hold, it is what you've become. Chosen one, it is not arrogance to know you were born for greatness. It is not ego to walk in what heaven already declared over you. It is humility to accept the truth of your design and to embody it without apology. You were never ordinary, never disposable, never made to be just another man passing through time. God chose you for presence, for leadership, for royalty. And now that inheritance has begun to bloom fully through your alignment, your restraint, and your awakened sexual energy. You are not becoming, you are. The world now sees what heaven always knew. Your very being shifts rooms, not because you speak louder, but because your spirit carries evidence. Feminine women do not cling to you because of your status or appearance. They linger because your energy whispers, I know who I am, and I will never lose myself to be loved. That confidence is holy, it is magnetic, and it is unshakable. You are no longer responding to old scripts. You've rewritten them in the ink of silence and sacred discipline. You've walked through fire and didn't ask for sympathy. You bled quietly, healed privately, and emerged without needing to announce yourself. Now the fruit has come into season. Now your inheritance is visible, not through wealth or fame, but through the reaction of the world around you. Women soften, men straighten, atmospheres pause, because a man who is truly aligned carries the echo of eternity. You were not designed to fit in, you were designed to redefine the room by walking in it, and now you do. With every step, your presence says, I know who I serve, and I know who I am. You are no longer pulled by desire. You move from command. Your high sexual energy, no longer scattered, has become fuel for legacy. And the legacy is not in the things you own, but in the way people remember how they felt around you, seen, respected, calmed, and called higher. The greatest proof of your inheritance is not what you gain, it's who you allow others to become in your presence. You are not a king who demands, you are a king who awakens. You do not force loyalty, you inspire devotion by being a man who is whole. And now, chosen one, your journey has led you to this sacred realization. You are not chasing love, you have become it. You are not proving your worth, you are walking in it. So walk, with your head high, your energy grounded, and your heart wide. The world has been waiting for this version of you. And now that you have arrived, the heavens smile. Not because you became impressive, but because you remembered what was already written in your name. Welcome to your throne. It's been waiting for you all along. Chosen one, as you entered this new chapter, your sexual allure no longer felt like a story you needed to tell. It had become a language you spoke with your whole being. You moved through the world with the quiet ease of someone who trusts their own energy, someone who does not have to shout or chase or convince. Your invitation was present in every gesture, every glance, every moment of genuine connection. The women who came into your life felt it immediately, a sense of being met without judgment, of being invited into something real, unhurried, and profound. You discovered that the greatest allure lies in the freedom to be both strong and gentle, bold and kind. You could be playful without cruelty, passionate without possession, magnetic without manipulation. Women admired you for this, not just as a source of attraction, but as a model of what it meant to honor desire with integrity. Your relationships deepened, not because you always got what you wanted, but because you were willing to risk the truth, to show your own longing, to ask for what you desired, and to accept when the answer was different from your hope. Your life became a source of inspiration for others, men and women alike. You noticed friends taking more risks, choosing honesty over pretense, letting themselves be seen and loved for who they were. You saw your presence giving permission for bolder conversations, for more joyful encounters, for deeper, truer connections all around you. Your allure, once so mysterious and fragile, had become a foundation, a steady warmth that others could trust and rely on. Everywhere you went, you left behind not just memories, but a trace of possibility, a sense that the world could be safer, more passionate, more honest, more alive. The women who loved you did so without fear of losing themselves.